Yo guys, what's going on? I hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to the ATV Revolution. So we're back with another installment of Bike of the Week, and this is a really cool build here. It is basically a brand new 250R. This thing was actually featured in Dirt Wheels magazine, so if you guys are subscribed to Dirt Wheels magazine, you might actually be familiar with this thing. And it's kind of a funny story. Somebody actually submitted this quad to Dirt Wheels that wasn't John. And I don't know if it was a malicious thing or if they just thought it was a really cool build and they submitted it to Dirt Wheels, but the wrong guy actually got credit for this thing. So if you do read Dirt Wheels and you read the article and you're like, wait a second, they said that this was somebody else's quad. That's why. So it's kind of crazy. And then the magazine got published, so I mean, you can't unpublish the magazine. But luckily they did correct it on the online version and they did a nice write-up for John. But it is kind of funny that happened. It really sucks though, man, when you spend all the time to do a build like this and the credit goes to somebody else, man, I'd be fuming. So the builder for this quad is John Langman, and this is a TRX 250R / TRX 450R. So it's basically a 450R converted using a 250R motor, and he wanted to use all of the 450R parts that he possibly could because 450R parts are relatively cheap and they're abundant and there's a lot of aftermarket for them. So it's a great idea. Now this isn't the first time that this has been done. There have been several attempts in the past. There's guys using CR250 motors, and there's also guys that have tried to do it with the legendary TRX 250R motor, and it's a great concept if you ask me. All right guys, so we're gonna hop right into it. We're gonna do it just like we've done before, and I'm gonna bring up these pictures. I spent a good amount of time trying to organize all this stuff so that I could give you guys a good linear progression of how John put this thing together and how he created it. And I want to give John a special thank you for sending me literally hundreds of pictures, a couple videos of the quad running, and just taking the time to write up a really nice essay for me explaining exactly what he did so that I can share this build with you guys. So I'm gonna hop right in here. So if you guys are familiar, most of you probably are, this quad is designed after the 1987 TRX 250R. So this is where the inspiration really started for John. So for those of you that don't know what the 87 250R looked like, that's where the inspiration came from. So we're gonna get started here, and I'm gonna start with this first picture. So this is the 450R frame. It's a 2005, and if you look here, you can see all the hot spots where John had this thing gusseted up. You can see these real nice welds and everything. It looks like he probably just reinforced a lot of the welds. I'm not sure if he put gussets in there or not. And he did want to give credit to his top welder, Garrett James. So John used to own a stainless steel fabrication shop, and Garrett was his top welder and did all the welding. And as we go through here, you're going to see the welds are absolutely beautiful. They couldn't even be any better. All right, so we're moving into this. I'm assuming this is the same frame. There's a few details that I may be leaving out. Regardless though, this is a white 450R frame, and here is the motor from the 250R sitting in there, and he basically had the 8687 motor mount in the back. If you guys aren't familiar, I'm going to throw up a picture right here of what the 8687 motor mount looks like. They changed that in 88 and 89, but he took that little motor mount on the back and he put the swing arm bolt through and kind of just got an idea of how everything was going to lay out. And as you can see back here, this rear mount for the upper shock mount in the back is in the way of the carburetor. So there's almost no way of getting around that. It's possible that maybe you could alter the boot or put like a sharp angle on here, but I think you'd be messing with the airflow of the motor. So you're gonna see what John decided to do. He actually cut this portion out of the frame so that the motor would be untouched and the layout of the motor would still be as it's designed to be. And he did an excellent job. This top mount takes a lot of abuse. So just cutting this out, that probably wouldn't work because this is where the top of the shock mounts. So every jump you hit and every bump and everything, a lot of force is being transferred to the frame right here. So you can see these two pieces of steel that John had welded in there, and they look awesome. I think he did an excellent job. And from an engineering standpoint, the way that is going to be really strong because a lot of the force is going to be coming up this way. So that should be a really solid design. Here's another angle. You can see the carb has plenty of space. Now this here is a boot for a Quadzilla, believe it or not. And John just happened to have this on hand, and he threw it in there to see what it would look like. Boot fits in here nice and like factory almost. There's another shot. And now another issue that came up is this shock. So you can see the rear shock here, and at the top is the reservoir. So it's fixed on this quad. The 450R, it faces forward, and it's not a remote reservoir. That's a route he could have possibly gone, but he wanted to keep everything as OEM as possible. This wasn't so much like a high performance build as much as making it as retro. It's a resto mod, basically. Turning it almost into what a factory 250R would be like if it was created today. So he took the shock and he flipped it around. So you can see it was in here before. So the shock is flipped around with the reservoir on the back, and that created enough room for the carburetor and whatnot. And this gives you a good look also, that mount. I like that he put the like a stopper plate on there. He did it on this side of the frame too. It really looks nice. Now we're moving into the front motor mounts. So he's designing them here. You can see he's got the frame up on a bench. He's using a block under the motor to get it sitting where he likes, and he's starting to fab up the front motor mounts. Just another shot there. Actually, I wanted to point out in this one, I'm not sure, but I think he's putting a crossbar in there. You can see it under here. That may be their OEM. I'm not 100% sure. But these front motor mounts are definitely not OEM. You can see he's fabbing them up, and I like the design he's using here too. I think these look really cool. And now this is like a little jig, it looks like he made to make those. And in this shot here, he's making them out of something else. I'm not sure if these are titanium or not. It looks like a different type of metal. He fabbed up a second set. This, I believe, is the lower motor mount. I think this is that bar I was talking about. It looked like it was welded across the bottom of the frame. And then these two tangs here to bolt up the bottom of the motor. And now we're going to move into the radiator and the exhaust. So these were two huge challenges. Anybody who's built a hybrid before, you've probably come across these same challenges, especially when you're converting a 4-stroke to a 2-stroke, because 2-stroke exhaust is so much bigger than a 4-stroke exhaust. And it can, I imagine it would be a big challenge making it fit, especially with the radiator. All that stuff kind of gets stuffed up in the same area. So everything is kind of being laid out in these pictures, and we're going to see what the issues are. So you can see this pipe it's rubbing against everything. It's rubbing against the bottom of the radiator, the shroud there. And the radiator, this actually is a radiator from a 250R. So he was playing around, John was playing around with 450R radiators, 250R radiators, and I believe a couple other aftermarket brands too, to see what would fit best. So the 450R one was way too low, and it was hitting the pipe and everything. The TRX 250R radiator is 3 inches shorter. It's also 1 inch wider though, which created a slight issue. But the 250R radiator fit better, and you're going to see what he does. You can see how this lines up here, right in the OEM location, which is nice. These are the bottom stays on the radiator. The top stays. Keep in mind, guys, this is just with everything laid in there. So this would be like the measuring up portion where he's blocking everything out. And you can see he's measuring it right here. And this outlet right here is just in a bad spot. It's right up against the exhaust and everything. So what he's going to do is actually cut that off and cap it and weld a new joint on. And it comes out a lot better. Here's just another shot of the bottom of the radiator, and an idea of what it looks like with the radiator in there. The radiator being 1 inch wider is rubbing up against these side fairings, about 1/2 inch on each side. And he said it just barely presses up against them. It's nothing that causes an issue, and it's not even noticeable. And it's something that he can fix with spacers anyway. So these are just giving you a perspective of what it looks like with the radiator stuffed in there and all. Now this is still before he's fabricated anything. These are the top radiator mounts. He's kind of lining everything up, seeing where he needs to put his bosses so that he can thread that radiator in. And here's a front shot. Now here's where he's actually starting to fabricate stuff. You can see these 2 pieces of tubing he's got in place, and there are small tangs right here that he's going to drill and put rubber grommets in so that he can sit that radiator in there like it's OEM. Plus, where he's putting these pieces of steel tubing, it's going to strengthen the frame also. Up top, you can see I believe he welded a boss on the frame and threaded it so that he could put these OEM radiator mounts on. Now down the bottom, here's where you can really get an idea and kind of bring together what he did here. So you can see the different, this 90-degree elbow that he welded on there. It's in a different location. And these really beautiful welds down here, tying everything together. The radiator sits in there real nice. And he used OEM Honda grommets to set the radiator into. Here's a shot from the other side. Here is where that outlet used to be. It was right here. You can see he capped that off and then he welded in this elbow. Here is the top weld. And now we're moving into the exhaust. You can see, just to give you a perspective, this is that rear shock right here and the reservoir. And right here is the exhaust coming through. I'm going to show you some of the issues that he had. Now, this is an FMF fatty pipe, and you guys might notice this big kind of dent here. I'm actually not sure if that's OEM or not. I've never dealt with the 250R FMF fatty. You guys can let me know in the comment section below, but I don't think that dent is there from the factory. Sometimes, you know, it would maybe have something like that to compensate for the cylinder or something like that, but I don't know if that's something that he had to put custom in there to make this pipe fit, or if it's just a damaged pipe. I'm really not sure. Regardless, John said it's like a miracle how well this pipe fit, and he's was kind of in disbelief. It's almost like it was made for the quad. So he didn't really have to do that much exhaust modification, at least with the expansion chamber. Everything kind of fit in there really nice. This is kind of a confusing pick at first, but you can see this is the silencer, and he's got a little mount here, kind of making the stretch between where that 250R pipe is and where the 450R pipe would mount. And here's lined up in the back. This is the muffler right here, and you can see where the mount is on the top. So what he's going to do is weld in a piece on the frame, and he makes it look OEM. It looks awesome. This is clearance. You can see this is the back of the silencer. Some of this stuff is kind of confusing, guys. That's why I kind of try to explain it for you, because this picture looks like, it kind of looks like nothing until it's explained. Now up in the front, this is the water pump cover. You can see the ESR water pump cover right there, and the front motor mount. And this is the underside of the pipe where one of the mounts is for the exhaust. So again, this is just kind of like laying it in there, getting an idea of where he needs to weld all of his brackets and stuff on. You can see how this thing flows right through here. It really looks nice. Definitely got lucky there. Nice side profile. And here's with the plastics on it, getting an idea what it looks like. And here is that piece that he welded onto the subframe, so that he can bolt this exhaust up and it looks OEM. There's a nice shot right there. You can see the exhaust flowing through. I think it looks awesome. You would think it was made that way. Now we're kind of moving back to the airbox, and if you guys were noticing in those pictures, there was a good shot of the airbox setup that he has, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. So this is that Quadzilla LT500R intake boot, and he took a piece of 4-inch aluminum with a 4.5-inch outer diameter, which is exactly right for that Quadzilla boot. And then he used, he had to create a little bit of an extension because that Quadzilla pipe was about 2 inches too short. So he extended that, and I believe the extension is right there, right up to the carb. And as we move along here, it's going to kind of come together. You'll see this, the boot comes through here. Moving along here, he's kind of like measuring stuff up because he cuts down this pipe. It's a 4.5-inch K&N air filter is what he used on here, which is the same size that would be required on a Quadzilla, from what I understand. And this airbox is completely custom, and this is the stuff that I think is awesome. So John's a true engineer, man. He made this airbox out of cereal boxes first, just to make a prototype and see what would fit. And then I guess he had Garrett fab up this aluminum one, and it looks amazing. Look at the welds on here, all in the corners and everything. It looks like it's made. It does not look like something that somebody just handmade and threw together. It really looks nice. Something that you'd buy off the shelf for sure. Get a good look at that, and it fits in the frame perfectly, and it bolts up to the OEM 450R spots. No customization had to be done there. It looks excellent. We're gonna get a shot here with the filter in it, and it looks like it would have plenty of room for flow. I don't think that'd be a restrictive system at all. Excellent job. There's another shot. You can see everything just flows really, really nicely. He did an awesome job. Now moving into the swing arm. This is a 450R OEM swing arm, and I believe John used a swing arm sleeve from a 400EX, and he had to cut it down. This is a picture of the 86, 87 style rear motor mount, and the only reason I threw that there is because this picture, you kind of get an idea. There's that motor mount, and all this stuff is painted. Granted, this is kind of like a sneak peek, but I wanted to show you guys the swing arm setup after he had it all set up. And the motor drops right in there. You can see the chain roller and the chain slider are lined up and everything. So now, taking a step back from where everything was powder coated, this is a good shot of everything kind of getting ready to fire it up for the first time and make sure that everything's working. These just look so nice. I think he just did such a good job. I believe these are CR250 bars. And now he's starting to throw everything together, like I said before, so that he can do a test run. He threw the wheels from his 250R on there. I don't know if you guys noticed in the background of some of these pictures, you can see his 250R. And then he picked up some cheapy 450R plastics just to make sure that everything would fit properly. And these pictures of the wires and everything are for the wire harness. So he said everything for the wire harness basically went on without a hitch. He zip tied everything to the frame, and he welded a few tangs on. Right here you can see the coil. He welded a tang on there. And then also right here for the CDI, I believe he welded a tang as well. Now it's really starting to come together. Now you may have noticed in those videos that the Kickstarter, it doesn't really line up. It's kind of just hanging out, and that's the original TRX 250R Kickstarter. And what winds up happening here, he's got to design something that's going to fit. And you can see in these pictures, it's just not lining up. So John's from Canada, and one of the local spots he rides at is the Ganaraska Forest. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but supposedly they have really nice trails out there and everything. And John was out there riding one day, and he noticed something shiny on a sandy trail. Stopped and picked it up, and it was an RMZ 450 kicker, as he found out later. As he rode around throughout the day, he asked other riders if they knew anybody that was missing a kicker. Nobody knew, so he brought it home, and just for shits and giggles, he threw it on his project, and it lined up perfectly. So he wound up machining that kicker a little bit so that it could fit the OEM knuckle from the 250R, and slipped that kicker on there. And wait till you see what this thing looks like. It literally fits into the location. Like, it's unbelievable, really. And John said to this day he still can't believe how that worked out, that he just stumbled across that kicker on the trail and it just happened to fit his build so perfectly. You can see that it looks perfect. The only thing that's a giveaway is that the grips on it are on the wrong side, and I can't imagine that really creates any kind of issue. And the reason that it's like that is because the 250R kicks forward and the RMZ 450 kicks backward. All right, so now we're getting into the actually assembly. After he got all his parts back and powder coated and everything, he had everything powder coated to match the original 87 OEM colors as best as possible. Here's a shot of the frame after it came back from powder coating. You can see this thing looks absolutely beautiful. All this stuff back here. Look how nice that came out. Really, really looks nice. As OEM as I think you could possibly make it look without completely reconstructing the frame. I think this looks excellent. If you showed this to a random person that wasn't familiar with 250Rs and 450Rs, they would never guess that this was custom. It looks like it came right this way from Honda. So now we're getting into that assembly. You can see his 250R here sitting on the side. Looks like a nice quad. So he's got that radiator in there in that fresh frame. And we're just kind of going to progress through here. Now you can see he's got the A-arms on there. He has that OEM Honda gold that they used on the old 87 250R. And everything's coming together really nicely. It's just such a nice looking build. And now we're getting to the seat cover, and you can see it's a four-work seat cover with ribs on it, and it's that original, as close to the original color as that blue seat as he could make it, but it still gives like a new modern look. And he also found some gold wheels, and these are even OEM tires from back in the day to really make it look retro. Now he's got the motor in there. Looks like everything's lining up very nicely. These are plastics from an 08 in a tank because they are all white, which is going to go with the color scheme perfectly. And you can see that radiator cap. Everything's looking OEM. Everything's coming out beautifully. Almost together here. Here's a shot from the back. It's just about done. Got that Four Works hood on there. And that's it, man. This thing is all together. Look how that exhaust sits on there. And now this pipe, he had it coated. I believe it's a black ceramic coating. Regardless, it looks awesome. And it gives it kind of like that OEM look. And there it is on there. Man, that looks nice. Look at the kicker. Isn't that crazy? I can't get past that. I think that's awesome. John wanting this thing to look as retro as possible. Here is a 450R with retro graphics on it. These are some of the pictures that helped inspire the graphic design that he chose. And here is another 450R. And you can see he has it circled, kind of what he's looking for. And I believe these are probably the pictures that he sent to the graphic company, FTR. And you can see right here are his custom graphics laid out. He's got 250R on there, 4 tracks and everything. And he also had some custom ProLink decals made for the swing arm to give it that extra vintage look. All right, guys, so I'm gonna finish this video out with a slideshow of this quad all finished up and completed. I'm telling you what, man, these pictures look awesome. And I also have a small video of the quad running in its finished format. But as you can see, a ton of engineering went into this quad. John, awesome build, man. I definitely would not be able to build something quite as nice as this, man. It's definitely as close to an OEM TRX 250R would be if it was produced after 1989. So that's what Bike of the Week is all about, man. Taking your projects, putting them in the spotlight, and really showing all of the detail and hard work that goes into these things, man. Because a lot of times when you see these things out on the trail or the track, you don't even realize how much work went into these things. So if you're interested in submitting your bike, quad, or trike for Bike of the Week, shoot me a DM at MichaelSabo350 with a nice picture of your bike, and also remember to include Bike of the Week so that I know that that's what it's for. Now, there are some future plans that John has for this bike, and I figured I'd mention them to you. John's planning on possibly putting an ESR 330 power plant in this thing, and he's also thinking about putting one of the retro-style handlebar-mounted headlights that was on the 86 to 87 TRX 250R and a tail light to make it look even more retro. And last but not least, how much did this damn thing cost? Because I know you're all wondering. It cost him about $5,000, which is nuts if you ask me, but you have to keep in mind he already had the motor and the exhaust on hand, and he has quite a few friends that race and had factory takeoff parts from 450Rs that were just collecting dust, so he got a really good deal on a lot of 450R parts. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to finish it out with the slideshow and video. I will see you guys on Friday for the next Project 250R video, possibly Wednesday. If you're not familiar with the channel, definitely check out Project 250R. And until then, guys, have a good week. Peace out.